All right. Well, first and foremost, I want to say good day to everybody here attending from around the globe. It's early for some, late for others, but wherever you are, I hope that you and yours are safe and healthy. Yesterday, we had an excellent day. Lots of interesting conversations and questions. Just the diversity of things that were discussed were completely amazing to me. Today is going to be no different. And so it gives me extremely great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today, who is Dr. Natália Archinard. So Dr. Archinard holds the space portfolio at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland. She's been leading the Swiss delegation to the United Nations Committee on Peaceful Use of Outer Space for more than a decade and serves as the chair of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee of COPUOS for the period 2020-2021. Dr. Archinard has been representing the Swiss government in multilateral negotiations on space security and sustainability related initiatives, including the development of the guidelines on the long-term sustainability of outer space activities within COPUOS and the draft International Code of Conduct proposed by the European Union 2012-2015. She's a member of the Swiss delegations to the European Space Agency, including at the ministerial level, and the United Nations General Assembly First and Fourth Committees. At the national level, she's involved in the design and implementation of the Swiss space policy. Dr. Archinard holds a master's in science and mathematics from the University of Geneva and a PhD in mathematics from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, ETH, in Zurich. And with that, I don't want to take up any more time. Dr. Archinard, welcome and thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Mariba, for your introduction and for the kind presentation. And I'd like also to thank the co-organizers of the conference and the sponsors. So it's a great pleasure for me to present you a few perspectives maybe related to international collaboration and global governance of space activities. Caroline, if you have my slides to show, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you. You can switch this one. Thank you. Go to the next. Thanks very much. So what I'd like to say as an introduction, and I think it came out very well yesterday from the discussions, there is no uniform comprehension of what space traffic management means or should be. So we've seen this yesterday, and the meaning also there is no universal definition, no let's say a definition agreed at intergovernmental level, for instance. Although the subject is being on the agenda of the legal subcommittee of COPUOS, so only for the legal aspect of it. Well, space traffic management also entails a lot of, it's very multidisciplinary, so it has a lot of aspects from policy, legal, technical, and even security or political aspects. And we've seen also there is a lot of activities which are already taking place, be it at national level in many countries, also in collaboration already with partners at regional level maybe, and there are also some efforts at global level, and I will come back to them. And what is very impressive is the range of actors dealing with space traffic management in some way or another, be it at technical level, the development of software, of new capacity, of observation, and also obviously the different institutions in the different countries and at global level. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, because I'm looking at the chat at the same time. No, to here give maybe two objectives, which I think, because if there is no common definition of STM, I think there is sort of a common understanding of what it should aim at. So I put here on this slide two objectives, which I think are somehow agreed by many actors. And the first one is that STM should aim at ensure the safety of on-orbit operations. And the second one, which is that it should aim at ensure the sustainability of space activities. And somehow maybe this corresponds to, these two objectives corresponds to two different tasks. On the one side, the coordination of space traffic, and on the other side, the management of the space, the orbital environment, let's say. So thank you for the next slide. Oh, well, I see you don't see all curves. Oh yeah, it's coming, it's getting uploaded apparently. So this is a slide made by the Space Debris Office of ESA, the European Space Agency. It's a result of their studies, analysis. And it shows an extrapolation of how what the evolution of objects in space, in orbits, will be in the next years, let's say. And we see here the importance. If we look at the curve, the upper one, where there is no mitigation, and the one below, which is an extrapolation of the current behavior. So I think this is this slide shows a lot that if we continue with the current behavior, the current way we mitigate space debris, we will not be able to control the amount of objects in orbits. So it's interesting to look at the curves below. The blue one with 100% passivation of space objects and the effect of post-mission disposal, which seems to be very important to control the evolution of the space debris population. It is only with 90% of implementation of the post-mission disposal measures that we have no increase of space objects. So, but even better, if we add to this active debris removal, then we start to not only have no increase, but we can have a slight decrease. So that's the first point I wanted to highlight, is the importance of implementing existing guidelines for ensuring a control for controlling the evolution of the space object population. Next slide, please. And maybe I have to highlight that that's on the previous slide, on slides that we just discussed, it is not taking in account any plans for large constellations. So this slide here shows the effects of one single large constellation on the orbital environment. And this is also very much explanatory. We can see that, so the background, so we said the basic assumption is that there is 90% of implementation of the post-mission disposal measures for all other objects apart from that large constellation in question. And we see that if with only 50% of implementation of post-mission disposal measures for the large constellation in question, we still have a steady increase of space objects. So it shows that the large constellation projects really need special attention. Next slide, please. So what can we do to mitigate, improve, and manage the evolution of the space objects population? I just put really on this slide and the next one a lot of things we've heard actually yesterday. Well, first, and that was also the aim of my previous message, we shall aim at improving the implementation of the existing guidelines. And how to do this without setting prejudice to national industry, for instance. I think we believe we need to look at incentives. We had yesterday several words coming up, like taxes, or also find the initiative by the WEF to develop a space sustainability rating, quite interesting in this sense, because it gives a positive incentive to space operators to follow, to implement the guidelines. And to improve the implementation, we need a coordination at international level, so that indeed we have a non-discriminatory, a certain balance in the implementation and non-discrimination between the operators applying the guidelines and those applying less the guidelines. Well, we also saw on the previous slides the charts by ESA how important active debris removal is, and also on-orbit servicing as a way to extend the life of space objects, also to ensure that in case of breakup, the damage is less important. And of course, such kind of technologies, ADR, OOS, so everything which has to do with the rendezvous and proximity operations has a strong security side, because such technologies could be used in hostile manners. So we also need to accompany the development and obviously the use of such technologies at global political and diplomatic level. Yeah, so next slide, please. Other measures that could be done, or efforts that could be done, is to improve the knowledge of what's in space, what's in orbit, so SSA typically, and improve also in particular the accuracy of orbital information, work on the development of common standards to ensure interoperability between the different data sets, and with that improve the accuracy of prediction of potential collision. And in all these, the exchange of information among the different entities at international level is very much, is increasingly important, I would say. And it would have also a second effect, which is to enhance the transparency and consolidate building trust among the different actors, and I would say in this particular among the different countries. So I just noted here that in all these measures or activities which could be done to improve space traffic management, there is a component related to international collaboration, and this is obviously at I'd say bilateral level with friend countries, friend partners, allies, but there is also a need to address specific questions at global level with the whole range of spacefaring nations. And here I'm obviously thinking of COPWAS, the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Next slide, please. So how can we improve the management of space traffic? Again, the two sides of it, the coordination of space traffic and the management of the orbital environment. Well, it came out also very clearly yesterday, there is a need to involve all stakeholders, meaning the private sector, the academics, universities, research institutions, different institutions within the governments, also the space agencies, but also the regulatory entities. Civil society is also very much playing a role in these discussions, or has to a stake in this discussion, and maybe can give incentive to space operators and states for a better implementation of the guidelines. And obviously we need to involve all states. That's also my message today. Hence, we should engage at international and multilateral level and build on what has been done already. I think we are not starting from scratch, be it at diplomatic level, be it at technical level, and I think we should try to use and improve the avenues which have been already put in place for dialogues with all stakeholders. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is my last slide, because I'd like to leave a bit of time for discussion with all participants. But I really wanted to highlight what has been done already and what can be built upon to pursue work at global level, with an aim to find a better common understanding at global level on what space traffic management should be, could be, how it could be better implemented. So I'm looking at the guidelines on the long-term sustainability of space activities, which were developed by Cockrell during almost 10 years and finally adopted 2 years ago in 2019 by Cockrell itself and subsequently by the General Assembly of the United Nations. So those LTS guidelines, as we call them in the jargon, they entail a lot of recommendations which are pertaining to space traffic management, and which encourage international coordination and collaboration in many aspects of space traffic management. For instance, space operations, conjunction assessment, registration of space objects, research in space weather, for instance. So in the upcoming work of Cockrell, which foresee a continuation in the work on this topic, long-term sustainability of space activities, there is room when states will be discussing the implementation of the adopted guidelines. There is room for multilateral coordination on many topics pertaining to space traffic management. So I would really here like to give this message to encourage states to participate through this process to developing new elements for space traffic management. And before we go to the Q&A session, I'd like also to refer to some other initiatives at global level. I mentioned, for instance, well, no, I think I didn't mention it, but the creation of debris through anti-satellite tests, for instance. Well, you may know the difficulty of agreeing at diplomatic level on rules or guidelines on this topic. But for instance, the UN Institute for Disarmament Research, UNIDIR, has come up with a proposal for guidelines on ASAT tests. And they are very, I like to repeat them because they are very simple, so to say. Well, the best is to do no ASAT test, but if you do one, do it with really low debris, and in any case notify so that other states will be aware and prepared. So there are a lot of, and yeah, I don't want to go through all them, but certainly they from different states in different fora, there are different initiatives put on the table which can inform discussion and which hopefully will lead to some result. So thank you for your attention. Thank you, Moriba. If you are managing for me the Q&A, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much. Excellent. And so let's go with a question here from Victoria Sanson that's been upvoted a few times. So what is your opinion of the recent UK-sponsored resolution passed in the UN General Assembly calling for states to submit their concepts of responsible behavior in space to the UN Secretary General? And is Switzerland going to be submitting its report?
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for the question, Victoria. Great to know you're online. Yeah, I mean, well, Switzerland, if you ask the position of Switzerland on that, Switzerland has been very supporting on this of this resolution, and will hopefully provide some comments. This has yet to be determined internally within the Swiss administration. But certainly this is a positive initiative in the sense that it aims at restart the dialogue on the arms control on the arms control discussions pertaining to space, which were sort of blocked in the Conference on Disarmament, for instance, and at the first committee of the UN. So it's a fresh approach which will allow states to restart dialogue, and certainly it is very much welcome.
Excellent, thank you for that. Going on to the next question. So while it was touched on briefly yesterday, can you please share some outcomes from the 2019 workshop convened by Switzerland regarding LTS guidelines? And will the LTS working group restart this spring? Has a chair been decided yet?
Okay, double question indeed. So maybe to put things in context, this workshop organized by Switzerland in June 19 with the participation of a lot of experts from member states, from ESA also, for instance, was an attempt to convince member states that work on LTS should continue. And indeed, so it was organized a few, well, on the day before the session of COPWAS, during which COPWAS adopted the 21 guidelines, which had been finalized, and at the same time, decided to continue work through a new working group. And this new working group has yet to start its work. As a first step, member states of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee of COPWAS have to elect a bureau to lead this working group. And this task has proved to be more complicated than expected, in the sense that member states could not find consensus on the composition of this bureau last year. Well, we all know that the COVID pandemic also slowed down the work of the United Nations. I shouldn't say speak so generally, but several UN entities had to suspend some work, and that was the case of COPWAS. So we had only part of the discussion last year, and we will hopefully resume discussion in April this year with during the session of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee. So, well, my hope as chair of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee is that member states will be able to agree on a bureau, so on officers for the bureau, and that the work will be able to start without further delay.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Here is another question on ESA and the Clean Space mission. Is there a plan to deorbit another object after the Vega adapter?
Well, My answer is simple. I don't know. Sorry about that. I'm sure they will be looking at the next steps, but I'm also convinced the first step needs to be done first. So I don't know about further plans on that.
All right, thank you so much. We have a question here. ESA preparing operations to clean up orbital debris. To what extent have people considered the risk of an ASAT?
What is meant here? Sorry, I don't have the questions under the eyes. So if there is more details in there, I don't have them. But what is? What are these people considering the possibility of an ASAT?
Yeah, so I think what the question is getting to is the whole dual use technology aspect. The technology developed for debris removal. How do we, or how do you think it could be ensured that it's not abused and used maliciously?
No, sure. So I'm convinced that first I think that there is a transparency and openness in the communication to announce what the plans are, and then all precautions will be taken so that there is first no mistake, so not getting to grab another object which is not the right one, and no accident in doing that either. So, and then hopefully the technology will be protected sufficiently so that no third party would have access to it to take control of it and use it in a malicious way. So I really hope everything will be done in that sense.
Great
answer.
Direction. No, thank you so much. All right. The questions are just coming and coming. Hopefully this is okay with you.
Sure, please.
Okay, so here's the other question from Dick Beneke that's been upvoted. From your perspective as chair, how can COPOS STSC delegations most effectively work with their respective national private sectors to ensure work on LTS accounts for the rapid pace of commercial innovation and not just government-funded projects?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Hi, Dick, and good to know you're here online too. So it's obviously a very good question. Yeah, those delegations or the delegations which will be responsible to take on board the inputs of their national industry are the same are those which need to agree with others on the rules. So the difficulty is really, as you know it, is difficulty to find consensus with among all parties, in that case all states, and that's for me the bottom, the core of the difficulty. Now, how can member states improve that the inputs from the private sectors are taken in a better manner into account in the work of COPOS? This is certainly something I believe, and that's my personal belief, that member states at the committee should reflect upon how to create a better relationship with the private sector. It's for the moment, the private sector is from time to time invited to participate in symposia, which take place during the sessions, or there are also side events in which member states or delegations invite their private sector to present to their activities to other member states. So that is, I wouldn't say a superficial way, but that is maybe not enough given, or it's getting to be more not enough given the importance the private sector is taking in this kind of in space activities. So Yeah, I think we have to reflect on that. I don't have, I'm sorry, an all-done solution. And I know, and you know, it's been in discussion under delegation. So I think we need to pursue this discussion and really make all efforts so that there is a better consideration of what the space sector is doing in space today. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Maybe a couple more questions here.
Sure.
One is, what is the status of the LTS guidelines compared to the UN Space Debris Mitigation Guidelines of 2007? Do both sets of guidelines enjoy formal UN General Assembly endorsement?
Yes, yes. I think they have both the same, both sets the same status, and they are complementary to each other. They are not contradictory. So the scope of the LTS guideline is broader. It invites, by the way, states to implement the previous sets of guidelines, including the space debris mitigation guidelines. So it's really going further and compatible with what had been done before.
Excellent. So I have a question that I'm going to ask you. Are you, in this position, in this role that you have now with STSC, do you favor and maybe want to encourage the UN having some sort of activity on space traffic management where, there's coordination of, maneuver planning and these sorts of things? Like I remember some time ago, some colleagues had said, oh, well, there should be, the UN maybe should manage a global catalog of objects and these sorts of things and have some database for information sharing regarding these sorts of things. What are your views on that?
No, well, thank you for this question. Most certainly the UN organizations have to play a role in helping member states manage space traffic at global level, in helping coordination and cohesion between member states to work together. The exchange of information on space objects is part of it, is part of the efforts which need to be conducted to improve space traffic management, to improve the safety of space operation, to be more concrete. So most certainly, I see a role for the UN in that, at the least in convening member states together to discuss on that. Then it is a decision up to member states. It's a decision that member states themselves need to take together, right? And that's the difficulty. But it is up to member states to make those efforts to improve the coordination at global level.
Excellent. I'm going to say thank you very much. You've answered a whole wall of questions. So I'm gonna thank you for doing that, and say we will conclude this first keynote, and let's take a break, and basically let's be back here in, let's see, 17. So this is going to be like a yeah, we're going to begin at 8:50 our time. It's 8:33. So consider this like a 15-minute break, and then we'll be back for the session, which will be SSA Technologies, and I'm going to be your moderator for that. So thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
You.
I'll stay online. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.